Gun politics in the Czech Republic incorporates the political and regulatory aspects of firearms usage in the country. Policy in the Czech Republic is in many respects less restrictive than elsewhere in the European Union. See gun politics in the European Union. A gun in the Czech Republic is available to anybody subject to acquiring a shall issue firearms license first. Gun licenses may be obtained in a way very similar to a driving license by passing a gun proficiency exam, medical examination, and having a clean criminal record. Unlike in most other European countries, the Czech gun legislation also permits a citizen to carry a concealed weapon for self-defense. 240,000 out of some 300,000 legal gun owners have concealed carry permit. The vast majority of Czech gun owners possess their firearms for protection, with hunting and sport shooting being less common. Firearms ownership has a very long tradition in the country. The English term pistol originated in 15th century Czech language. Mariánska skala in Ústí nad Labem is Europe's oldest still open shooting range, established in 1617. The Czech lands have been the manufacturing center, including weapons industry, of Central Europe for over 2 centuries. Firearms possession was severely restricted during German occupation and the subsequent communist dictatorship, with ownership rates gradually rising ever since return of liberty following the 1989 Velvet Revolution. History. Firearms and religious freedom. Use of firearms as infantry weapons was pioneered in the Czech Crown lands in the early 15th century. In the 1420s and 1430s, the Czech Hussite army led by Ika started using firearms and artillery effectively on the battlefield. It had previously been used only during sieges of towns and castles due to its heavy weight and cumbersome operation. Use of field artillery in the Battle of Kutná Hora was first such recorded utilization. Firearms, alongside wagon fort strategy, proved indispensable for the mostly peasant reformationist army in their war for religious freedom against professional well-armed and trained Catholic crusader invaders. The word used for one type of handheld firearm used by the Hussites, Czech, pala, later found its way through German and French into English as the term pistol. Name of a cannon used by the Hussites, the Czech, Haufnice, gave rise to the English term, howitzer. 18th and 19th century gun laws. Under common law tradition, civilians could possess firearms except artillery and insidious weapons, e.g. firearms that had appearance of other objects, etc. First gun control laws were enacted during the early 18th century and dealt with illegal use of firearms for poaching. At the time, hunting was an exclusive noble privilege with little to no legal option for participation of common folk. Despite tough sentences of 12 years of hard labor or death introduced by a 1727 enactment, poaching with use of firearms remained widespread to the point that a 1732 royal gamekeeping rules noted that gamekeepers were in constant danger of being shot by poachers. A 1754 enactment introduced up to 1 year imprisonment for carrying of daggers and pocket pistols, terce rolls, as well as tough sentencing for cases of attacking or resisting law enforcement with use of these weapons. Mere brandishing of a weapon against a state official was to be punished by life imprisonment. Wounding a state official would be punished by decapitation, killing of state official by cutting of hand followed by decapitation. Another 1754 enactment limited possibility of shooting within limits of certain cities to licensed shooting ranges, showing early development of sport shooting in the country. A 1789 decree on hunting also included firearms-related measures. Any person merely passing through someone's hunting grounds was obliged to either strip trigger off or wrap their firearm in cloth under penalty of confiscation as well as complete ban on firearms possession. Other enactments limited use of firearms in cities close to buildings and on state roads, especially shooting to air during religious celebrations, citing fire hazard as a main concern. In general, however, people were free to possess and carry firearms as they wished, with another 1797 enactment specifying that loaded firearms at home must be kept in a way preventing their use by children. Gun control enactments adopted in the following 3 decades focused on banning of insidious weapons such as daggers or rifles hidden in walking sticks. Despite having been already banned under the 1727 law, forward to 1820 enactment lamented their widespread presence among population both within cities as well as in the countryside. Imperial Regulation No. 223. Following power reconciliation after failed 1848 revolution, Emperor Franz Joseph I enacted the Imperial Regulation No. 223 in 1852. According to the regulation, citizens had the right to possess firearms in a number needed for personal use. Possession of unusually high number of firearms required a special permit. Pistols shorter than 18 centimeters, entire length, were banned altogether, as well as rifles disguised as walking sticks. Firearms and ammunition manufacturing was subject to license acquisition. The law also introduced firearm carry permits. A carry permit was available to person with clean criminal record subject to paying a fee. It needed to be renewed after 3 years. Certain civilians did not need a permit: hunters, shooting range members, those wearing traditional clothing that had firearm as customary accessory. During emergency state, carrying of firearms could have been provisionally prohibited. Another regulation of 1857 explicitly banned private ownership of artillery, while 1898 regulation lifted the ban on small pistols, shorter than 18 centimeters. Independent Czechoslovakia. After the establishment of independent Czechoslovakia in 1918, the country kept the gun law of 1852, see above, i.e. the citizens had the right to possess firearms and needed to obtain a permit in order to be able to carry them. After Adolf Hitler's rise to power in Germany in 1933, local ethnic German party established its own private security force. In 1938, Hitler brought his demand for succession of part of Czechoslovak borderland that was inhabited mostly by ethnic Germans. The party's security force was transformed into a paramilitary organization called Sudetendeutsches Freikorps, which started conducting terror operations against Czechoslovak state, Jews, and ethnic Czechs. Especially snipers using scoped hunting rifles became particular concern. This led to adoption of Act No. 81/1938, on firearms and ammunition, which for the first time introduced licensing system not only for carrying of firearms, but also for firearms possession. Ministry of Interior was supposed to enact a regulation which would set rules for obtaining the licenses. However, this has not happened. Freikorps was receiving illegal shipments of firearms from Germany, making the envisioned licensing scheme useless. Thus, despite the new law, the enactment of 1852 still remained in force. Nazi gun ban. Germany, Poland, and Hungary seized Czech borderland following the Munich Agreement with UK, France and Italy, in October 1938, immediately putting into force their own restrictive gun laws within the occupied territory. On March 15, 1939, Germany invaded the remainder of Czechoslovakia. On the very first day, Chief Commander of German forces ordered surrender of all firearms present within the occupied territory. This pertained not only to civilian-owned firearms, but also to those held by the police force. In August 1939, this order was replaced by Regulation of Reich Protector No. 2039. The regulation again ordered surrender of all firearms and introduced personal responsibility of land plot owners for all firearms that would be found within their property. Reich and Protectorate officials, including police and SS members, were exempt from the gun ban. Licensed hunters could own up to 5 hunting guns and up to 50 pieces of ammunition. Long rimfire rifles, sport pistols up to 6 mm caliber, air rifles, and museum guns were allowed, however they needed to be registered. Simple failure to surrender a firearm carried up to 5 years imprisonment, while hiding of cache of firearms carried death penalty. Offenders were tried in front of German courts. Another regulation of October 1939 ordered surrender of all books on firearms and explosives, as well as all air rifles that look like military rifles, which was obviously aimed at VZ.35 training air rifle that had appearance of VZ.24 Czechoslovak main battle rifle. From May 1940 onwards, illegal possession of a firearm was punishable by death. Communist gun ban. The 1852 imperial regulation became again effective following the defeat of Germany in May 1945 and remained in force until 1950. In 1948, Communists conducted a successful coup in Czechoslovakia and started drafting a number of laws that would secure their grip on power, including the Firearms Act No. 162/1949 that became effective in February 1950. The new law introduced licensing for both possession and carrying. License to possess could be obtained from the District National, Communist, Committee in case that there is no concern of possible misuse. The same applied for license to carry, for which there was also a specific reason needed. Since 1961, the authority to issue license was given to local police chiefs, subject to the same requirements. Given that state apparatus constantly feared counter-revolution, only those deemed loyal to the party had any chance of getting a license. Ministry of Interior issued in June 1962 a secret guidance No. 34/1962 which specified conditions under which the police chiefs may have issued a license in accordance with the 1949 enactment. License to possess and carry short firearms may have been issued to named categories of persons, members of government, deputies, party functionaries, communist people's militia members, procurators, judges, etc. Permit to possess and carry a long hunting rifle may have been issued only to certified and reliable persons devoted to the socialist system. Referencing the secret guidance while issuing or denying the license was strictly forbidden. A new Firearms Act was adopted in 1983 as No. 147/1983. License remained may issue subject to consideration whether public interest doesn't prevent firearms possession by the given person. Apart from other formalities, applicant needed to present also declaration from their employer. Licenses were now available for sport shooting purposes, whereby the applicant needed to present recommendation of a local sport shooting society, which was run by the party. For the first time, the applicant also needed to be cleared by his general practitioner. Licenses were issued for a period of 3 years subject to renewal. Similarly as before, the enactment was accompanied by secret guidance of the Ministry of Interior No. May 1984. The guidance again limited access to firearms to selected classes, mainly Communist Party members. Newly, sport shooters that achieved required performance bracket could also obtain license. Possession of hunting shotguns was less restrictive. Post-Velvet Revolution liberal laws. Following the Velvet Revolution, an Amendment Act No. 49/1990 COLL was adopted. Under the new law, any person older than 18, with clean criminal record, physically and mentally sound that did not pose threat of misuse of the firearm could have license issued. License may have been issued for purpose of hunting, sport shooting, exercise of profession and in special cases also for protection. Newly, denial of license could be challenged in court. A general overhaul of the gun laws took place through Act No. 288/1995 Call. Under the new Act, gun license became shall issue. Also possession and concealed carry of pistols and revolvers became shall issue. The law further introduced mandatory firearms registration. Accession to EU required a new law compliant with the European Firearms Directive, which was passed in 2002. The law significantly liberalized gun ownership, for example by allowing any legal weapon to be owned for self-defense and legalizing semi-automatic firearms which look like automatic, despite introducing more EU-required regulation. Current law. Under Act No. 119/2002 COLL, every citizen that meets the Act's conditions has the right to have firearms license issued and may then obtain a firearm. Holders of D. Exercise of profession, NE, self-defense, licenses, which are also shall issue, can carry up to 2 concealed firearms for protection. License category age possession and ownership of firearm category ammunition restriction carrying note no. 2016. A firearm collection 21A, subject to may issue exemption by police. B. Subject to shall issue permit. C. subject to later registration, 3 PCS or 1 smallest production package of the same type, caliber and brand no carry. In case of ownership of any A category firearm, the person must allow access for inspection of its safe storage to police officers. 94,307. B. Sport shooting 18. 15 for members of a shooting club. B. Shall issue permit. C. Later registration, none transport only. Concealed, in a manner excluding immediate use, 148,769. C. Hunting 18. 16 for pupils at schools with hunting curriculum. B. Shall issue permit. C. Later registration, none transport only. Open/concealed, in a manner excluding immediate use, subject to exemption by police, may use also night vision, A category accessory, 109,992. D. Exercise of profession 21. 18 for pupils at schools conducting education on firearms or ammunition manufacturing. A, B, C. Possession only, firearm remains in the ownership of the employer, only ammunition for the firearm in possession, no restriction on quantity. Concealed carry. Up to 2 guns ready for immediate use. Open carry. For members of municipal police, Czech National Bank's security while in duty 63,938. E. Self-defense 21b, shall issue permit. C. Later registration, only ammunition for the firearm owned, no restriction on quantity. Concealed carry. Up to 2 guns ready for immediate use, 241,229. Categories of licenses. There are 5 categories of gun license, however, these should not be mistaken with the categories for guns. A. Firearm collection. B. Sport shooting. C. Hunting. D. Exercise of a profession. E. Self-defense. Obtaining a license. An applicant applies for a gun license at a designated local office of the National Police. If the conditions of age, qualification, health clearance, criminal integrity, and personal reliability are met and a fee of 700 CZK per category is paid, the license shall be issued in 30 days. The license must be renewed every 10 years, no need to undergo qualification exam if the application is filed at least 2 months before termination of the previous license, health clearance still necessary. Age. To obtain a B or C category license, the applicant must be at least 18 years old. Under special circumstances, the applicant need only be 15 if a member of a sporting club, or 16 if taught hunting in schools with such a curriculum. To obtain an A, D or E category license, the applicant must be 21. Qualification. Obtaining the license requires passing a theoretical and practical exam. Theoretical exam. The theoretical exam consists of a written test of 30 multiple-choice questions, created and distributed by the Ministry of the Interior, with a maximum of 79 points possible. To pass the written exam, 67 points are needed for Category A, 71 for Category B or C, and 74 for Category D or E. The test deals with the following issues. Knowledge of firearms legislation. Knowledge of legislation related to legitimate use of firearm, e.g. self-defense. General knowledge of firearms and ammunition, and first aid. Practical exam. Safe handling, this comprises inspecting, whether the firearm is loaded, safely unloading. Field stripping as needed for cleanup. Preparation of firearm and ammunition for shooting, procedure of handling the firearm in case of malfunction, conclusion of shooting. Touching the trigger, pointing in different than appointed safe direction or trying to field strip loaded gun, dummy round is used, results in the applicant failing the exam. Depending on the categories of licenses sought, applicants may be asked to show their ability of safe manipulation on multiple firearms, typically CZ75N/ or CZ82 pistol, bolt action CZ452 rifle and a double-barreled shotgun. Shooting test, which requires specific scores dependent on the category of license applied for. For the B category license it is 25mm on rifle target, A4 sheet sized, with 4 out of 5 rounds hitting the target sheet shooting from a rifle, 2 out of 5 for A category. .22 long rifle chambered rifle is used. Alternatively, an applicant can shoot a pistol on 50/20 pistol target at 10mm. For the C category license, the applicant must fires at 25mm with a rifle, same as Cat B, and also successfully hit the rifle target from the distance of 25mm shooting from a shotgun, usually double-barreled. 3 out of 4 rounds must hit the target, at least partially. For the E category license, the applicant must successfully hit the international pistol target 50/20, 50 cm x 50 cm, from a distance of 10mm, 15mm for D category license, shooting from a pistol. 4 out of 5 rounds must hit the sheet, 2 out of 5 for A category. In each of the cases above, the actual score is irrelevant, the projectiles simply have to hit the target sheet within the circles. Also in each case, the applicant is allowed 3 test shots to familiarize with the particular firearm used for the test. The shotgun is an exception to this, where only 1 round is allowed as a test shot. A person can obtain more or all of the categories at once. But the set of categories needs to be known before the exam and highest score needs to be met. Typically, people obtain E and B category because these 2 categories provides the best versatility. Almost any firearm can be owned and carried concealed. The D category is required by the law for the members of the municipal police. Members of the state police do not need license for on-duty firearms, and does not itself permit private gun ownership, unless the person obtains also other license category. Health clearance. Applicant, license holder, must be cleared by his general practitioner as being fit to possess, carry, and use a firearm. The health check includes probes into the applicant's anamnesis, i.e. medical history, and a complete physical screening, including eyesight, hearing, balance. The doctor may request examination by a specialist in case he deems it necessary to exclude illnesses or handicaps stated in the respective governmental regulation. Specialist medical examination is obligatory in case of illnesses and handicaps that restrict the ability to drive a car. Governmental Regulation No. 493/2002 COLL divides the listed illnesses and handicaps into 4 groups, covering various issues from psychological and psychiatrical to eyesight and hearing. For example, the applicant must be able to hear casual speech over distance of 6 meters to be cleared for the E category. Generally, the regulation is more permissive when it comes to the license categories A and B, and more strict with view to the other categories, listing which illnesses and handicaps may curtail or outright prevent positive clearance by the general practitioner. The outcome of the medical examination may be either full clearance, denial, or conditional clearance that lists obligatory health accessories, glasses, hearing aid, etc., or sets obligatory escort when armed, e.g. B sport shooters with minor psychological issues, or with addiction habits cured more than 3 years prior to the health check. Criminal integrity. The enactment specifies the amount of time which must elapse after a person is released from prison for serving time for particular groups of crimes. Ex-convicts punished for committing selected crimes, such as public endangerment, or participation in organized crime group or murder, if sentenced to more than 12 years imprisonment, may never fulfill this condition. There is a central registry of criminal offenses in the Czech Republic. The criminal integrity is reviewed notwithstanding any possible expungement of the records for other purposes. After being conditionally discharged, the criminal integrity is regained after the probation period ends or in 3 years in special cases. After serving less than 2 years or being sentenced to different kind of punishment than imprisonment, the criminal integrity is regained after 5 years. After being sentenced for 2 to 5 years, the criminal integrity is regained after 10 years. After being sentenced for 5 to 12 years, the criminal integrity is regained after 20 years. After being sentenced for more than 12 years, for defined crimes, such as murder, treason etc., the criminal integrity is never regained. Please note that conditional discharge does not count, only the original sentence. Police may order temporary seizure of firearm license and firearms in case that the holder is charged with any intentional crime, or a negligent crime connected with breach of duties relating to possession, carrying or use of firearms or ammunition. Personal reliability. A person who verifiably excessively drinks alcohol or uses illegal drugs, as well who was repeatedly found guilty of specified misdemeanors, e.g. related to firearms, DUI, public order, etc., in the preceding 3 years, is considered unreliable for the purposes of issuing a gun license. The police has the right to inquire information regarding these issues also from municipal authorities. Misdemeanors are dealt with by municipal authorities and there is no central registry related to them. Losing reliability is caused by committing a crime and being conditionally discharged, until the probation period ends. Excessive use of alcohol or addictive substances. Committing multiple misdemeanors from specific segments of the law, regarding firearms, explosives, driving under influence, Czech Republic defense, public order, property, and illegal hunting/fishing. Only one transgression in last 3 years is tolerated. Other types of misdemeanors do not count to personal reliability criteria. Police may order temporary seizure of firearm license and firearms in case that administrative proceedings against the holder are initiated for committing selected misdemeanors, e.g. carrying while intoxicated, refusing to undergo intoxication test while armed, shooting outside licensed range unless in self-defense. Obtaining of a license by a foreigner. The law distinguishes foreigners according to their country of origin. For selected foreigners, a license shall issue as same as for Czech citizens, while for others it is a may issue. Shall issue. Foreigners from countries of the EU, European Economic Area and Switzerland, in case of their being granted temporary or permanent residency, then also their family members. Foreigners from NATO countries. Foreigners having been granted permanent residency in the Czech Republic and long-term EU residency or long-term residency in other state of EU and long-term residency in the Czech Republic, and their family members, if having been granted long-term residency. Persons having been granted international asylum in the Czech Republic. May issue. Other foreigners, no appeal possible against decision of appropriate police department to deny permit. Foreign-born residents are treated equally in the eye of Czech law, see above, but proof of a lack of criminal record in their country of origin must be provided. Persons having residence also in another EU country must provide documentation showing that they are allowed to own a firearm therein. All the documents must be translated into Czech language by a sworn translator. Foreigners with registered place of residence in the Czech Republic may purchase firearms after obtaining corresponding licenses and permits. Persons having residence also in another EU country must provide documentation showing that they are allowed to own such a firearm therein in order to be granted a permit to purchase a B category gun. The written test as well as the practical exam has to be taken in the Czech language. Until December 31, 2011, test takers were allowed to use a sworn interpreter/translator, but this has since been forbidden. Categories of guns. Under the current gun law, guns, ammunition, and some accessories are divided into 4 categories. These should not be mistaken with categories of licenses. A. Restricted firearms and accessories. Includes full automatic firearms, military firearms, and ammunition not inspected and marked for civilian use. Some types of ammunition such as armor-piercing and incendiary ammunition, night vision scopes, suppressors. The use of hollow point ammunition in pistols is also restricted. However, hollow points are legal to purchase for rifles and pistol carbines. B. Guns requiring permit. Includes semi-automatic and single or multiple shot handguns, revolvers, semi-automatic rifles and shotguns with magazine capacity over 3 rounds or with a detachable magazine, semi-automatic military-style rifles, rimfire firearms under 280 mm of length and all shotguns under 600 mm of length, flare guns with caliber larger than 16 mm. C. Guns requiring registration. Includes single-shot or bolt-action rifles longer than 280 mm, shotguns, semi-automatic rifles not included in B, air rifles with muzzle energy over 16J and black powder repeaters. D. Guns available to adults above 18. Includes air guns, muzzle energy up to 16J, mechanical guns, with kinetic energy from 150 N, replicas, black powder up to 2 shots e.g. not black powder revolvers, airsoft guns, vintage firearms, manufactured prior to 1890, expansion guns and .22 cb cap, muzzle energy up to 7.5 J. A person must obtain the gun license, zbrojení prikaz, to be allowed to own gun of categories A, B and C. To own a gun in the D category only the age of 18 is required. A, B and C category weapon has to be registered within 10 working days with the police after it is bought. Obtaining firearms. Each of the A, B, C and E categories of gun license allows the person to buy a B or C category of gun. Holders of an A category license may, after being granted may issue exemption by the police, also purchase an A category firearm. Holders of D category may possess and carry any category of firearm, which remains the property of the employer. In case of B license, the person is allowed to use their guns at shooting ranges. The C license is required by other laws for hunting. The E license allows the person to own a gun for self-defense purpose and carry the concealed weapon. All guns need to be registered with the police in 10 working days after buying except for the D category. To obtain a gun from the A category, typically a full automatic or select fire firearm, the person must ask for a may issue exemption from the police and demonstrate a specific reason why they want such a weapon. For private physical persons, the only acceptable reason is collecting. For physical or legal persons having an armament license, this is a completely different certificate than the gun license. For professional purposes, the acceptable reasons include providing security for dangerous or valuable shipments or VIP objects, manufacturing or testing of firearms, providing training in use of A category firearms, or filming in case that the firearm is adjusted for use of dummy rounds. The B category of guns, typically any semi-automatic firearm, requires permission from the police. Before buying the gun, the person must visit the police and fill in the permit to buy, own and carry form for the particular weapon. Depending on the police department, usually caliber and type of weapon is required. As a formality, a person must state a justifiable reason for purchasing a B category firearm, which include collecting, sporting, hunting or cultural activity, conducting business with firearms and ammunition, providing security, exercise of profession and self-defense. The police will issue the permit in up to 30 days, usually immediately, and the permit shall issue if the applicant has a valid gun license, and fulfills all of its requirements, e.g. clean criminal record. The purchase permit is valid for 12 months. The C category of guns can be bought at a gun shop after presenting the gun license. However, the gun needs to be registered later at the police. There is no limit in the law on number of owned guns. The law specifies safe storage requirements for those owning more than 2 weapons or more than 500 rounds of ammunition. The safe storage requirements are further exacerbated for those owning more than 10 and more than 20 firearms. Possession of a firearm that does not belong to Category D without a gun license, as well as sale, manufacturing, procurement, etc., is a criminal offense which carries a penalty of up to 2 years imprisonment, up to 8 years in defined cases. Shooting ranges. Firearm owners are allowed to practice only at licensed shooting ranges and may otherwise use the firearm only in case of self-defense, or when permitted by other laws, e.g. hunting. As of 2014, there are almost 200 places opened for the public. Any adult can visit such a range and shoot from available weapons without restrictions or permits. A person without a gun license has to be supervised, if y.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.